search for answers moving forward after a deadly plane crash killed NASCAR great Greg Biffle, his family, and 3 others.
The NTSB is on the scene searching through the wreckage as fans are remembering one of the best to ever get behind the wheel. We have team coverage for you once again on this Friday night.
We will check in with Adriana Hargrove in a moment, but we want to start with WXII 12's Chris Peterson, who was in the room as federal investigators provided that update. Chris, what can you tell us?
Lindsay, NTSB investigators held an initial media briefing here at the Hilton Garden Inn in Statesville as they begin their investigation into the deadly plane crash that killed 7 people, including retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his family. According to NTSB board member Michael Graham, there were 3 licensed pilots on board the Cessna Citation owned by retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, but right now, investigators don't know who was piloting the jet. It took off from the Statesville Regional Airport just a few minutes after 10 Thursday morning. The jet was in the air for roughly 10 minutes before crashing while attempting to land back at the airport. Right now, investigators don't believe a mayday call was ever sent out, but they did recover the cockpit voice recorder. It is currently on its way to Washington, D.C. to be analyzed. The 16-member team will look at flight tracking data and maintenance records for the aircraft. They'll also look at the weather conditions at the time of the crash, which initially board member Michael Graham said was a heavy drizzle but no wind. Graham also made a request to anyone who saw the crash or has video to contact them at witness@ntsb.gov.
Videos sometimes will tell us a lot, give us additional information about maybe where the aircraft first struck the trees or something like that. Additional video on approach would be really helpful to us to get an idea of how high or low that aircraft was. Witnesses sometimes with something they heard, something they saw.
Graham said the team will be here for several days. They hope to get a drone up in the air tomorrow. It was too windy for them to do that today. He said we can expect a preliminary report in about 30 days, but the full report won't be available for 12 to 18 months. In Statesville, I'm Chris Peterson, WXII 12 News.
A lot of new details there, Chris. Many thanks. Of course, it is a solemn day for race fans and in particular people who live in and around Mooresville who knew the Biffle family personally. WXII 12's Adriana Hargrove talked with people there about honoring Biffle and his incredible work in racing.
It's been an emotional day here at the memorial created by racing fans for Greg Biffle. Now, people have been laying flowers on the plaque honoring him, which was created by the NC Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Race fans like Joe Salim have been at the memorial most of the day, paying their respects and showing support. Joe describes Greg as having a laid-back personality and remembers his generosity for Hurricane Helene victims. One fond memory is witnessing Greg get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And only 2 months ago, he received this honor of being inducted into the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Right down on that corner is where he was inducted. And 2 months later, we're here. Such a different environment, from joy to absolute sadness.
Those who knew Greg personally say he will always be remembered for his incredible sportsmanship on the racetrack, as well as his philanthropy for helping others. In Mooresville, Adriana Hargrove, WXII 12 News.
And that is certainly a sentiment repeated by those who knew Biffle's legacy both on the track and off the track. I spoke to someone here in the Triad who says the driver was one of the greats, of course, but he wanted to do everything he could to help others off the track too.
You never expect it to happen, and when it does, it's just such a shock.
The racing community is grappling with a tremendous loss, both on the track and off.
He was a great race car driver, but he was a better person. I mean, he was one of the finest people you'd ever meet, and he was always had a smile, always friendly, and he was always very approachable. I never ever really saw him in a bad mood. He was always happy-go-lucky and happy in life.
Greg Biffle, known as the Biff, was one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers.
By becoming one of the top 75 drivers in NASCAR, I mean, there's been a lot of people in the years that have raced with NASCAR, and he's one of the greatest.
Colbert Seagraves is the son of NASCAR Hall of Famer Ralph Seagraves and the executive director of the Nash Museum. Few people in the Triad know more about NASCAR's history than he does.
Greg was he was a bright star out on the West Coast. That's where he got his start. Kevin Harvick, those guys, they were the West Coast guys that came in after Jeff Gordon, and he was actually discovered by Benny Parsons.
Biffle was the first driver to win championships in both the NASCAR Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, and had 19 wins in the Cup Series.
He was always a very, very tough competitor, a great race car driver, and he was always well liked by the competitors and the fans.
But off the track, what set Biffle apart is that he was a humanitarian who cared for his community, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene.
He was instrumental in flying his helicopter, taking supplies in, getting people, search and rescue. In fact, they threatened to arrest him, and he just went and did what he needed to do.
He leaves behind a lasting legacy, not only within the racing community, but also well beyond.
They leave a legacy behind, and they'll be remembered forever. They'll never be forgotten.
Biffle was always doing things to help others, and he has been nominated for the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
We're also beginning to learn more about some of the other people who were on that fateful plane as well. They've been identified by family members as Craig Wadsworth. He's been described as a friend of Biffle's who helped with odd jobs as well as delivering supplies in the wake of Helene. There's also Dennis Dutton and his son Jack. According to our sister station in Alabama, the son was an aviation student down at Auburn University. You can find many more tributes coming in for the victims, as well as new information about the crash and the investigation on the WXII 12 News mobile app and our website. That's also where you can see some of Greg Biffle's racing highlights and hear from people who knew him best.